Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott and I'm here with this horrible lot who are going to be joining me very shortly. And we're here to talk about yesterday's great 1-0 home nil victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers at the third time of asking this season. But before we get on to the show, if you are watching this live, please hit the share button on Facebook right now and start your own watch party to allow us to reach as many people on your wall as possible. And also, don't forget, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Big Heads Media, I suppose, or either watch it, listen, or download us and any of our previous podcasts, or simply ask your Alexa, play the latest Red and Blue Review podcast, or go to redandbluereview.co.uk. Let's have a conversation. Don't forget, we are the only podcast you can watch. So I am going to introduce my colleagues, my friends, and also Jel Holio. Good evening, Jel. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right. You know, it is same different day.
I'm so sorry. That was just no need.
Cheap. It's cheap.
It was a cheap shot. It made me giggle and should laugh your own. Ian Lyons, stop giggling in the background. Good evening, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I was feeling down seeing that against Tottenham until that track had come out. That's really, yeah.
Grant Saunders, can you bring a bit of normality and civility to the conversation? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Nick. Felt like you had your finger stuck up a 240-volt socket just then. Your intro. Good evening, everybody.
Well,
it woke me up anyway.
I've got a question before we get into football. Okay, I am the only.
Is this
one.
about football?
Hold on, no, not this bit. No, it's not. I'm looking at the screen, and my hair, because everything's closed, is all wispy. What's going on with you, Joe? You're getting thinner on top. Ian, you never worked very. Yeah, exactly. You're back to meeting your fronts, boys. I can see that. And Grant, have you had your hair cut as well?
No, I just weigh it down. A bit of grease in 2000. Good camera trick.
God, you boys are old, aren't you? I thought I was the oldest one out of a lot of us.
It's working with you.
Listen, we were supposed to be. We're going to talk about the. We got some bits and pieces to talk about tonight. Coming up in tonight's show, we're going to have a rundown on yesterday's game. I've got quite a long question about our new signing, Jean-Philippe Matata. Is it Matata? Am I saying it right, boys?
You say patata, I say potato.
Let's call the whole thing off. Okay, we're talking about transfer deadline days. Listen, we're supposed to be happy. Yeah, I suppose we are after a win, aren't we? Okay. I want to talk about Frank Lampard-esque, okay, and a couple of other bits and pieces this evening. But so what we'll do, I think, is we'll crack on with the first half. Now, I think you'll all agree with me that the first half was about as interesting as hearing about Jel grouting his tiles, about as interesting as Ian Lyons talking about one of his spreadsheets, and about as interesting as Grant Saunders going on one of his weekend walks in Sussex. It was that interesting. Was that? Jel, talk me through. Give us your thoughts on an overview on the first half, mate.
Ballfest. Yeah. Literally, the stats were before the game, but we were exactly the same. Won and lost the same amount, pretty much. Everyone everyone, like the comms I was listening to, just said it'll probably be a draw, and they were nearly right.
And they're very nearly right. Yeah. Grant, your thoughts on that wonderfully exciting goal-threatened first half?
Well, you just used all the superlatives I wanted to use. It was written, wasn't it, really, that we were together in the league and it had 0-0 written all over it. It was like a ball score draw. And thankfully, it was a game of two halves is probably the best thing to say about it.
And Ian obviously needed something special from the guy that we'll come on and talk about later on. But it was crap, wasn't it, the first half? I'm not that good.
I mean, the telling stat was that was the first Premier League game this season when neither team had had a shot on target. So I think that says it all. But ironically, I actually thought we started off quite positively. But I'm sure we'll go on to discuss today.
Indeed. Right, before we do, can any of you see the screen and all the guys and girls out there on Facebook land?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There is loads of them out there. There's loads. Look, and we're going to kick off with something that Paul Holden has written in the chat. He's called us "Good Evening Ultras." Okay, not ultras, ultras. So Oldtras that came out last week. I think it was Paul that came out with Ultras. Do you know, Paul? I quite like that. It made us all laugh. Okay, made us all smile. Jill, say some hellos, please.
I'm just going to go for another name. So, Paul Glance, Chris Brandrick, Brett Kim, LGH Plumbing and Building Limited. But he's a plumber, better not be a tiler as well. Chris Pets, Paul Wyatt, Neil Chatterjee, Tim Richards, Lee Lockwood. You're in there, Georgie Wagwu, Daniel Garlick, Paul King, Chris Brandrick, Wayne Heverington. Yeah, that's about as much as I've got just at the moment.
Okay, just Brett Kemp's in there, Chris Brandrick, Paul Glance, Facebook user, do there quite often, and someone called Red and Blue Review.
And Phil Usher's there. Phil, good evening, mate. So you're doing really well in the Predictions League. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the Predictions League. We are having a real giggle in there at the moment. If you are not a member of Ian Lyons' brilliantly formatted Red and Blue Review Predictions League this season, yes, it's too late to do it now, but make sure you jump on because we've had, Ian, it's going pretty well, it's fair to say, isn't it?
Well, it is because I seem to be winning everything. But other than that, it's everyone's having a laugh. It's great. It's good fun, and I'm sure we'll open it up to more people next time round because clearly everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah, and everybody out there, I'd love you to come and join it next season. It's only £20 for the whole season. Liverpool agree a fee in the region of £2 million for Preston defender Ben Davies, live as we speak right now. Obviously, it's transfer deadline day tomorrow, which we're going to come on to a little bit later on. Did you want to say something, Jill?
Just a couple more. John Knox. Where was the other one? Hang on a second.
Tim Richards, James Convey.
That's it. It was James Convey.
Richard Aegis.
Perry Hunt.
Stephen Isles. Richard Aegis. Paul Gruber. Matty Cannon.
Val's out there. Val Peckham. Hi, Val. How are you?
That'll do for the moment.
I think so. Good evening to each and every one of you, wherever you are watching in the world. Thank you for joining us here on giving up your Sunday evening, as we love to give up our Sunday evenings and proud to do so each and every week just for you guys, because we want to talk about all things Palace, and we're going to come on to that after Grant Saunders has spoken.
Real quickly, just got to give out a big shout out to Richard, the Road 35 man. He's actually put in the chat, don't forget me. How could we forget you, Rich? And you two lads. Hello. See you soon, hopefully, mate. Thank you.
Crystal Palace midfielder Abrici Eze continued his excellent debut season in the Premier League and added to Wolves' troubles with the only goal at Selhurst Park. The £19.5 million signing from QPR settled a poor game with a thumping finish in his third league goal since making a step up last summer. I nearly said Sunday. In a match with a few chances, you can say that again, William Jose, in his first start for Wolves since joining on loan from Real Sociedad, was twice denied by Palace keeper Vicente Guaita. Wilfred Zaha almost and should have made it 2-0 when he hit the crossbar on the counter-attack. The win lifted Palace above Wolves in the league, who dropped down to 14th in the table and are without a win now in 8 league games. The manager said, "This was a timely win. We'd only taken 1 point from their previous 3 league games since beating Sheffield United on the 2nd of January. Eze also scored in that game, and the 22-year-old continues to be one of the big success stories of the season so far. After Jordan Ayew had rolled the ball into his path, okay, right. So we know the first half was crap, okay. So there was a couple of chances, and I want to talk about 2 things, okay. We're going to do both fullbacks to start with, both Palace fullbacks, okay, because we have been quite critical of them on this show recently, and we're also going to be talking about Eze. So, boys, first of all, Nathaniel Klein and Patrick Van Aanholt, and we have been openly critical of Van Aanholt over the last few weeks, okay, and probably rightly so. And Kleiny hadn't set the world alight since he's rejoined us, but now he's obviously signed an extension to his contract. I've got to tell you, and I was delighted to be proved wrong yesterday, that Kleiny was named man of the match. I thought he had a brilliant performance, and so did Patrick Van Aanholt. Discuss who first.
Me.
Go on, Joe.
Okay, so Klein, the goal stemmed from his run down the right-hand side. He puts the ball inside to Ayew. Ayew squares it again. And Eze scores. Just on the goal, I think if it had been our goalkeeper, we would have been disappointed. I'm just saying, we would have been disappointed. Yeah. I know he hit it hard, but he was straight ahead. Anyway, I've said to you for ages, just player watch, right? And when Klein gets down the right-hand side, he has, in almost every single game that he's played, been in that position, going down the right-hand side, and not being passed to. That was such an outlet for us, but our outlet is always biased to the left-hand side. And he makes those, whenever he plays, he makes those runs all the time. I thought he played really, really well. And again, when credit is due, then players like Van Aanholt will get the credit. I'm just saying it's taken him 20 games. Well, 15. He's been out injured a few. So, how many times have we turned around and gone, he's man of the match, or even a contender? Well, he hasn't, has he? He's been pretty poor. So, if his season's going to continue in the same vein, on the 38th game, we'll be saying he played great against Liverpool, and then he'll get sold. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Klein has I'm not going to say got his act together, but played more of a part because of being fed like he was and being involved in the goal was only going to give him more confidence. And what it does as well is it does give us an outlet because that man can cross the ball. So at Palace, didn't see it so much at Palace the first time round because he was a young and anytime he got near the halfway line, he got a nosebleed. But whenever he played for Liverpool, he's always bombed down. Wrong.
Just I agree with a lot of things said there. I've not been a fan of either of the fullbacks really, but they proved me wrong. I thought though with PVA he had a steady game, but when the Predator came on, as he looks at his head, and he showed up the weaknesses I think of PVA because that bloke just starts from dead, didn't he, to 0 to 60 in half a second. He's so quick, and he did leave PVA behind, but he had a relatively steady game, I thought.
Okay, Ian. In my mind, we changed the formation yesterday. We're normally doing 4-4-2, a boring 2 banks of 4 lineup. Okay, was the change of formation? Was it 4-3-2-1? Would you say it was yesterday? And would you say that has slightly released the 2 fullbacks to bomb on? Because we've all been advocates for Joel Ward and young Mitchell over the last few weeks, but I think these 2 boys yesterday had great games.
Yeah, but I think we need to put the things into perspective. Very good games because I think Wolves were for a start were poor. They're on their poorest run in years, and that was proved to be the point. Where I think the formation worked yesterday, I agree that both PVA and Klein had good games because they were allowed to have good games. As soon as Traore came on, he owned PVA and pinned him back. But what made it work in the first half, especially, was whenever PVA went bombing forward. Nice boots, by the way. Did you notice they were the same colours as the kit?
Yeah,
they were nice boots. Whenever he went bombing forward, James McCarthy dropped back to left back and covered for him, and that's where it worked. And as as the guys have said, I'm not going to disagree with a lot of what they say, and credit where credit is due. They played well, but you come up against a better team, and I'll be interested to see how they do. Klein, in particular, I think was far more solid, certainly defensively, although he didn't have Traore to deal with. But I think there are a number of good performances as a result of the change of formation. I think Luca, his passing was woeful still, but he broke up a lot of play yesterday, and that's one of the best games I've seen from him this season. Eze, I thought was poor, really poor up until the goal. Great move for the goal, and I guess that's when you've got players of that talent. That's what you leave them on for, hoping they're going to have that like little one spark of ability that results in a goal. Ayew, I thought, was my man of the match. I thought he held the ball and retained the ball so well up front. Sometimes he holds on to it too long, but he then allowed the team and allowed the fullbacks to come up bombing alongside and overload. But let's be honest, it wasn't two great point blank saves from Gaeta. It could quite easily have been a different story.
Yeah. Jel, before I mention Ian Noble in the chat.
Oh, go on. I was just going to read it, but it's just disappeared from my screen.
Because it's valid, I'm going to do it. I've got it right here. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously Ian Noble, regular presenter on the show. Ian, are you available for next Sunday's show, please? Assuming we've got one next Sunday. Yes or no in the chat, please. And Ian writes, I've said before that both Ward and Tyrick Mitchell were better choices, but was proven wrong yesterday as both fullbacks were both sound defensively and looked much better going forward. We've known this about PVA for a while, but let's not forget that Kleiny has played at a higher level and has had something about him to get the big move and an England recognition. And good point, well made. Super. Yes, mate. Did you? Sorry, Grant. Did you say something?
I was agreeing.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said something. I thought you called me.
We agree with you. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely right, and well made, mate. The other thing I was going to say, boys, that none of you have mentioned so far was the actual goal itself, Eze's goal itself.
I thought we'd carry on to it.
Okay, boys, Philly Boots, do the goal because I'm looking for you to actually mention something, and I'm not going to tip you the wink. Go for it.
I'll go for it, guys. For the goal, start at the back. PVA. What I love about it is one touch. It started from the left, moved across the right hand side, and came to the PVA. Eze, correct me if I'm wrong, Luca, Batman, Wilf, Klein. There's a bit of luck there because he tried to cross it, hit their defender, it fell to Ayew. Ayew then squared it, and this is the bit I liked, okay? It came to Eze, I'm going to bank you on my right foot. He let the ball run across himself, gave him his left foot into the net, and yeah, the keeper, you could see him, he just slightly went the other way. Which the ball was hit at him, but he was totally off balance. He was quite close. He hit it hard. They went in the net. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
I made it 9 plus the throw in. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
9. Jel.
Yeah, 9 including the throw in. Yeah.
What, 9 passes?
Yeah, nine different. Yeah, 9 different touches of the ball. Don't forget, I was involved. Eze was involved in it twice.
9 players, 11 touches.
Brilliant. And if that had been Barcelona, Real Madrid, then
are we right into the BBC about it?
They'll be cutting. No, I won't say what I was going to say.
We may not have been last on match today.
We were talking today. 2-0 in front of our 1-0.
I saw that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of people that are in the chat going on about PVA being or looking overweight. Right.
I think more beefing up myself. But yeah.
Do you think so? Okay. I don't really care, but yeah. So Stephen says Jaro should be starting this game. Leon Sounds said Jaro should be playing every week. And Tom Clark saying we need to build a midfield around Jaro, change the game in the second half. So, even if we've got players that are playing very well, there are still people are looking for or looking at other players being left out who, again, Tom said Jaro for Luca Tuesday and Matata for Michi. But we'll talk about
Well, we'll
We'll
come
talk
on to
about
that.
the new centre forward in a little while.
Well,
But
I mean,
but yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of a lot of. I was surprised to see Mitchell. You know, I know people said, "Oh, he had a bad game last year." He didn't have a bad game; just had a few loose touches. You know, compared to the high standards that he's setting himself. I think he's absolutely not even in the same ballpark left back versus PVA. For me, I mean, he passes the ball better, he's faster, and given the licence to go forward, as we've seen with just the few times that he's go forward, he can cross the ball. So I think having Ward and Klein out on the right hand side gives us a really, really good foundation for next year of having two right backs. And this is the thing: people are saying, "Oh, you know, Ward's too slow. He's this, he's that." Joe Ward never lets us down. He wouldn't have been with us for 8 or 9 years or whatever he's been if you know, you get sussed out quickly in the Premier League, and he's been with us for 7 years. So I think that I think we're doing all right. We just need a couple of young centre backs now. We're getting the young midfielders, hopefully getting the younger forwards. So you know, maybe Wilf might not want to go anywhere else and get the big money with us. If we can take our wage bill down to substantiate his high wages and keep the team together. So, you know, I understand the need for people saying Gyro, and I would have Gyro over Luca any day. But, you know, having those two, I don't know, I mean, Luca's got a bit of a name for himself with yellow cards. But, yeah, what we've got now, you know, we're getting there for almost the 2 players per position, which is
what we've been calling for years. Ian, we didn't really touch on the lineup, but there was a couple of strange calls on the lineup. If you think about what he had on the bench yesterday, we're talking about Ward and Mitchell on the bench. He dropped them both. Cahill on the bench. Okay, Kelly on the bench. Riedewald, Townsend got dropped. Okay. Maybe right. Benteke, you could argue a bit unlucky because he hasn't been playing badly, and of course Matata. Strange bit of a strange lineup, really, though, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I'm far from Roy's champion cheerleader, am I? But what I would say is that he is. I mean, he was vindicated from his choices, and it's nice to see because part of my criticism against Roy is that he never bloody changes it. So he changed 3 of the back 4 who get 7 goals in previously. Some would suggest, you know, that BG's not being on his ball. Who's that? Who's fucking the cappuccino? I like one. Yeah, he's not. Even BG could have potentially been dropped because I think Butland's waiting there in the background. But nevertheless, we won, didn't we?
Indeed.
So it's vindicated. The only reason McCarthy didn't play was because he was injured. As I say, Luca did step up, but it's clear that as soon as Riedewald came on, that changed us. That changed. Mark Bushell said it earlier in the camp that we're moving the ball. I said at the very start, it was a positive start. It was a positive start because we went for them. We moved the ball quickly. How many times have the 3-4 of us complained about how ponderous we are when we get the ball? We get the ball into the middle of the park, rather than transition into the final third quickly. We just wait and recycle it and try and move it around. And that's not us. We then get caught and then we concede and it's too late. Yesterday was a little different. We started to go. We didn't necessarily start the second half the way that we finished the first half, but nevertheless, I thought it was a far better performance. Joel's right. You know, we've got strength and depth in the squad, but do we have the right manager?
How many times have we had this conversation?
I mean, it's still there, isn't it? I mean, if the rumours are true, Arsenal are after either Tyrone Mitchell or PVA.
Oh.
You know, so we would be happy if PVA went for 15 million. Would you? Would you be happy if he went for 15?
Who, PVA?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll drive in there myself for 15 million. Crikey.
That's an expensive cab. At least charge him 2. Go on.
In the back of the van, mate. I've got some chat stuff just before you come in, Grant. So again, Matty Cannon turned around and said about PVA and Mitchell targets for Arsenal. He said Arsenal couldn't afford Wilf, and then probably couldn't have even afforded his wages to loan him last year. So there's no way, if we were going to let anyone go, we'd be looking at 35, 40, 45 million quid for a left back. They're not going to pay that. It's the big clubs, Man United, City and all that will pay that kind of money. And that's only when that will turn our heads. So Ian Noble turned around and said that goal yesterday reminded him, of the goal against Liverpool when we lost 4-3 a couple of years ago. Now, for me, that goal, and I've always say it, that goal was the underrated goal of the team goal of the season. Was an amazing goal, completely as usual, ignored by the mainstream media.
Very
Tony Hopper said he thinks it's time. Well, this is a bit controversial, but I don't know about. He thinks it's time for Luca to hang up his boots. Matty Cannon again said Banks has been sent out on loan back to Scotland. I think he's been banished back to Scotland. The sorting hat at Hogwarts picks the team, said Laurie Scott. Anyone else want to come into the chat to read out the chat?
Yeah, I was looking at a couple of them. There's a couple of new names in there that I haven't seen before. Phillips Von David. That's a new name in there. Good evening to you, mate. I can see you're quite prevalent.
Paderborn, Germany, Nick.
Huh?
Is watching from Paderborn, Germany.
Listen, mate. Like I say, we've got people watching in New Zealand, Australia, Germany, all over the world. Thank you for joining us. We thoroughly enjoy having you on there. Please, if you are watching from abroad, in the chat now, please let me know where you are from. And Caterham doesn't count as abroad, okay? But
exactly, Fulton Heath don't count.
Well, it does. Right, so good 3 points picked up there. Yes, I think we'll draw a line unless there's anybody else want to do anything else in the game. Anything else missed from the game? But
Brighton almost scored again. What do people think about Batshuayi's performance?
Good question. I don't think it was his worst performance, but he's certainly. It's funny you should ask this question. Okay, I'm going to answer you by asking you through another question because part of me is getting a little bit concerned. I know you already touched on the manager, but what is it? What are we doing in the coaching with our players now? I'm thinking about Batshuayi. I'm thinking about Benteke. I'm thinking about Connor Wickham. I'm thinking about you could name half a dozen players. Their confidence has been, even Eze to a point, even young Eze to a point, their confidence seems to be coached out of them at the moment. Okay, Ian had his hand up first. Go.
Right, I'll be very quick on this, job because I know you'll probably say something very similar. It's simply because Roy is such a defensive coach, and therefore he pretty much ignores strikers. Done.
Well, short and sweet. Jill.
I don't think that Roy, no matter how good a coach he is, could improve any 30-year-old plus player's game. For me, I don't think he can improve. I don't think that anything that we could do could improve Gary Cahill's game. He's on a different level to coaching. Benteke seems like you can't teach that old dog new tricks. Batshuayi may be the same. We've got a lot of older players. It's the younger players. What we need to do is to just not coach the goodness. Like Eze, you see Eze, he swaggers and ghosts around the pitch. I just pray that they don't try and coach that out of him and just turn him into.
It's already happening.
It's why I asked the question.
But that's what I'm saying. When we get rid of Roy, we need someone younger who's going to appreciate. Who's going to just appreciate him for what he is. I mean, I'm going to say I don't care if he loses the ball running at players, but I really don't. Is it as long as he's not trying to.
Me and you, mate, we're younger. Let's do it.
Boys, can I just jump in a minute? As People saying we've had Norway, Germany, Thailand, a couple of others. New Zealand, of course, is always there. That's Switzerland's on there. We've also had Costa del South Croydon. But Manchester, is that where you are, Daniel? I didn't realise you were up in Manchester, mate. Never mind, I do feel sorry for you. And Rochester.
Uzbekistan.
Yeah, right.
Do you know, you make me so proud, seriously. Each and every one of you, if you're not watching in the UK, you sort of get used to the guys watching in the UK. You lot are watching all over the world, and I'm very, very proud to have you on board. Thank you so much. Right, okay, so Grant, anything you wanted to add on to the are we coaching it out of them?
No, I don't think so. To add on, a bit of a case of I agree. I'd like to think these professional footballers coming in, you won't have their entire game changed. I can see that with a couple of players seem to be having things coached out of them, if you like. Maybe we'll see a change soon.
And of course, you've got to also add Townsend into that as well. He's just another name. Perhaps you think about Luca's first couple of seasons, he's setting the world on light. He's not doing it anymore. Maybe, I don't know. And by the way, it's a remiss of us not to mention Ray Lewington. Ray Lewington's not on the bench as he wasn't the other night because he's contracted COVID. Ray, on behalf of everybody at Red and Blue Review, good luck, mate, and fight through it. We miss your dulcet tones on the bench. So coming up over the next few weeks, now people, we're currently on, how many points are we on? 26, is it? Yeah. 26 points. Okay. So we're currently sitting on 26 points. We're going on to some questions in a minute. But coming up over the next couple of weeks to the end of February, we've got Newcastle this Tuesday night at 8:15, live on BC Sport. We've got Leeds away on the 8th of February at 8 p.m. on Sky. We've got Burnley on Saturday the 13th on Sky at 3 p.m. and Jel will be hosting the show on the Sunday. And then we've got the big one, of course, against the Weed. Monday the 22nd, 8 p.m, also on Sky. And the final one in February is on the 28th of February, Fulham away, Sunday, midday kickoff, live on the BBC for everybody to be able to watch and enjoy. So we've got 5 games there, possible 15 points. Your thoughts, gentlemen? You know where I'm going now. You know, Jel keeps beating me to it. Okay, Grant, I'm going to start with you. And I know you hate predictions. And I know you do. 15 points available out of those games. And I'll run them by you again because I know how to give them to you.
I got me from a minute. I gave you a match. So,
you're lying. I gave them to you. Newcastle, Leeds, Burnley, Brighton and Fulham. What do you think, mate?
There's 5 matches there where we should be achieving points.
Oh, Fulham's at home, apparently. Did I say away, Ian? Thank you. I just see that in the chat. Thank you, mate.
Yes, away to Fulham, yeah. 15 points. Newcastle, I think they'll do us. Leeds, I think they'll do us. I think we will get 7 points there.
In the chat, what do you think? Everybody in the chat, I can see Paul's gone with 8. Andy Best is going with 6. Mukhtar, good evening, mate. I hope you're well, buddy. He's going 6. And Luke Cooper. Luke, God, your glass is nearly empty, mate. Not half full. 3 points. Jel, your thoughts on those few games, please.
7. And I'm going to make a prediction. If our performance is as crap as it has been for the last few against Brighton, that's when it gets binned. All right?
Oh, Jel Holyoke has
7 points as well.
On tonight's show, the manager will lose his job if we have a crap performance against Brighton.
Well, I'm hoping I would have won a Euro Millions by then, bought the club, and I'll sack him anyway. Right? It's a hurrah for me.
Right, Ian, I want to finish off on this one with you. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, clearly on paper, with the squads, it should be. Hang on a minute. Clearly on paper, with the squad, it should be 15 points, shouldn't it? 15 points would see us home.
Yeah.
See us over the line, it would.
So 15 points would see us safe. I would like to see us go all out and do it and go for it. I agree with everyone else. I think we would I think we could potentially get 9 points, and I think that's what I'll go with. I agree with Joel, though. Any less, and I think, and it's certainly if we lose to the Scum, then he's out.
I don't mind us. Not that I don't mind us. If Brighton are a decent footballing side, I think they're a better footballing side than us. But if we lose to them without a fight, then exactly. I think then that's the end.
But that's everything, isn't it?
But what we need that Matata up front. We need him to absolutely smash dunk.
Yeah, well, what we need is
we've not seen him yet. How can we say that?
Right. Okay. Can I? Okay. Now you've all said that. Okay. Stop there a minute because I'm going to read you something. So the Palace fans pre-match were all up for seeing our next possible gem to be given his Premiership debut. But typical Roy Hodgson, Jean-Philippe or JP to his friends was on the bench. Wells sitting socially distanced in the stand, and that's where he stayed for 90 minutes. Why? Discuss. Because it frustrates. I nearly swore. You nearly made me swear. But it frustrates something out of me. Anybody could take it on for me. Go on, Nate.
I think we're all speechless.
So we made.
I'll tell you what it is. Firstly, we've got into another contract of this. I can't remember who it was a couple of years ago. But if they played 15 times, we had the obligation. There was an obligation to buy. So we've basically paid, as far as I'm aware, we've put £3 million in wages up front for an 18-month loan deal. But if he plays 15 times, then we have to give 15 million euros or pounds for him. So that would, in effect, plays 15 games. He's our player. I'm not sure that he's going to get 4 games maximum from what he's got left of this season.
Really?
I don't think, because otherwise it leaves him. I think what they'll do, they'll put it on him to prove his worth, and if not, whatever it is, I don't know what it is. What is it? It's going to be a 30 grand a week, something like that. It's not the end of the world, and that's a terrible thing to say. 30 grand a week is not the end of the world.
I mean, I can see what you're saying, and maybe you're right. Maybe why waste one of those appearances for the last 10 minutes of the game? I could see that because we'd like to see it from the start. I mean, Roy is, being quite encouraged by what he's seen. I mean, look at all the training videos we see. He scores screamers. He waltzes past people and in the back of the net. But that's in training, isn't it? Like all the training videos. I'd love to see him play up front. I'd actually like to see him play alongside Batshuayi and have Wilf on the left. And then Eze on the right, or swap them over because Eze probably used to be on the left, and putting the balls in. The problem we always have is that whoever we have up front, they do not give them service from the wings. And this guy is the new Ibrahimovic. So he can score with his head, he can score, with his feet. He's got a great presence. He likes to bully centre backs. So let's see him. But so, in order to answer your question earlier, Nick, that is probably why he wasn't brought on, because we didn't want to waste one of those appearances for 10 minutes.
Grant, I'm just coming to you now for that statement, mate, please. And guys, we're also going to come back to JP in a minute because something else has happened. I'm not too sure if you're aware of, and I'm going to read it. But before I do, somebody else is watching us in the chat. Greg Ellis, one of our current producers. Okay, even though he's been on a bit of sabbatical recently. Greg is on there. Good evening, mate. Sending you and your family lots of love from everybody here. Buddy, get on the show, please. We'd love to see you. Love to see your face on the screen. I hope you're well. Grant, finish up on the game, please. You've got a bit of a summary for me.
Yeah, this has come from the good travelling fan alongside with me. He's written me something. I'm going to read it out. This about yesterday's match. So this epitomises what we all love about football, and in our case, watching and following Crystal Palace around the country. First things first, 3 very welcome points and a bit of respite and relief from the relentless malaise we've found ourselves in recently. His personal view is that we have struggled for any sort of form or consistency since the first half away at West Ham. Glimpses of quality like Eze's goal against Sheffield United It was a hard strike against West Ham. Defensive resilience at Arsenal when we came back from the 7-0. We find ourselves at a crossroads cup right now, and determining the direction we take next could be pivotal to the future of the club, and this feeds nicely into analysing yesterday's game. Roy Hodgson made a team selection at 2 p.m. yesterday afternoon. I'm sure surprised all of us. Macca injured, Ward, Mitchell and Cahill rested. Benteke and Townsend also benched. Were these 5 dropped after the dire performance against West Ham, or is this just a rotation? Do we ever rotate? That's the sort of rotation we do, yeah. Or do the two become the same thing? The biggest surprise, although we shouldn't have been surprised, was there wasn't a starting debut for our Mateta. So we lined up in the formation 4-2-3-1, spearheaded with Batshuayi, Zaha, Ayew and Eze rotating across the pitch in wide and supporting striker roles. McCarthy and Milivojevic sitting deep to shield the back four. Klein and Van Arnold flanking Kouati and Dan. On paper, a decent 11, but recent performances and form suggested differently, and up against a team that had won our previous 3 encounters without us travelling their goal at all. The first half produced, great word here, produced an insipid display. That's the one word.
Oh, nice. Right. Insipid's good.
An insipid display of not wanting to lose and lacking any sort of actually creativity. A lone chance, so the Batman, talk about that later, when he hooked right underneath the ball. The play was risk averse, sideways and backwards, and that included Zaha and Ayew. Eze at times tried to inject some forward thrust, but far too often ran into trouble or misplaced a pass leading to Wolves again gaining possession. Fortunately for us, Wolves offered very little in terms of an attacking threat, and therefore the majority of the half was played in a congested middle. Half-time 0-0, hurrah, and a half of football that should be resigned to room 101. Love that. The introduction of Gyro was the second half seemed to give us the spark. We've all said that this evening. That was so lacking in the first half. A player prepared to put his foot on the ball, look for a starting and for attacks, probing and threading the ball forwards. Klein and PVA finally getting further down the flanks. Did that happen because of Gyro coming on? I don't know, but they getting further down the flanks, thus leading to the most impressive piece of football the game offered. Klein and Ayew to Eze and won the strike that Patricio didn't even sniff. I wouldn't say that. I think he sniffed it, just sort of let it through his legs, really. A left-footed finish that took me back to Dean Gordon. Yeah, I'll give him that. After edging in front, we should have killed it, but alas, Zaha hit the crossbar. How many people here were reminded of his strike against Brighton when he hit the crossbar? But that one went in.
Yeah,
I lost my spot now. Where the player of his quality and reputation should be finishing 8 yards out with only the keeper to beat. Traore was introduced and got the byline a couple of times without causing us too much concern. And Wolves' chance of an equaliser was comfortably dealt with by Guaita. Overall, we edged a drab affair between two sides in poor form and low in confidence and lacking any real goal threat. Roy can be vindicated in his team selection. Open brackets, just, close brackets. Best performers for Palace, in my opinion, his opinion for Klein and PVA. Where do we start the conversation this evening? Also, Riedewald, when he came on, he was saying that Riedewald was his man of the match. We were too passive and lacked intensity and urgency, but we have another 3 points, and Roy is sticking to his brief of accumulating enough points to have Premier League football at Selhurst Park for next season. Doesn't that sum out well? The platform will be there for the new broom, should that be the direction the board chooses to take. Team selection for Tuesday will be interesting, and for me, Mateta must start.
Okay, thank you for that. Can we now do Mateta again? Boys, I'm sorry, I'm not leaving you out here. Obviously, Grant had quite a lengthy statement there that he wanted to read out. But we're going to move on to questions, and the first one is about JP. And there is some noise in my headphones. I don't know if anybody's got anything playing in the background, but if they have, could you just mute yourselves?
You hear voices.
Has JP been misquoted, or is he using Crystal Palace Football Club as a stepping stone to bigger and better things? And Nigel Croucher, thank you for your hard work. And this is the quote. He was sitting down for an interview with So Football after his move. Matata made it clear, I want to break everything. I'm starving. I'm hungry. And since nothing is handed to you, I'm going to have to work hard. Revealing that Palace have been speaking to his entourage now for a long time. He explained that those in charge of him made him aware that they've been after him for years, and he feels that he's arrived through the big door. However, he did reveal that his ambition was to win trophies, and while he was not, whilst he might not do that with his new club, there is definitely some banging going on in the background, boys. Please, what I'm trying to read. Whilst he might not be able to do that in his big club, they could help him achieve it. He said, "We can qualify for Europa League for starters. After that, listen to this, boys. This is relevant. Crystal Palace can help me find a club where I'll stay for 10 years and where I'll win trophies." That's not to say he's already looking for a way out, but every footballer comes with their own ambitions, and so this happens to be his. Your thoughts, Ian?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what I want. I want a player to come in who's hungry, wants to prove himself, and wants to put himself in the window. That means that he wants, big clubs will be looking for him, because we are. We said this last week. We said it the week before. We should be buying players that are on the up, that want to use us as that final step up to the very top. So I'm all for it. Good, because it means he score goals. He won't under Roy. But the next manager, maybe.
Coach it out of him.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be a good centre back.
Yeah, a defensive midfielder we're going to turn him into. Jel, your thoughts on that statement?
Much the same. Not really interested. I just what he wants to do in the future. If his future is somewhere else, it's somewhere else. I mean, you only got to say that about AWB. The absolute first sniff of a massive club turns out to be, that when he takes his Palace shirt off, he's got a Man United shirt underneath it. So, you can find out who this guy aspires to be playing for. If it's, generally a Frenchman coming over to London doesn't land on our doorstep very often. Usually lands at Arsenal's. So, they're soon enough. Listen, if he scores, if he stays with us for 18 months, we get the obligation to keep him, to buy him, and he stays with us for one more year after we've put him on a contract. And he's scored, 40, 45 goals in 2.5 years. Then I'm sure that the big clubs will come knocking anyway. And as Parish once said, we're always a selling club. I mean, it's as simple as that. You need to get over it. That we need to. Players want to move on. I don't really care what he does, as long as he does what he needs to do for us. Gets us up the league. And if he thinks he wants to be playing Europa wearing our colours, then fantastic. But if he's got those kind of thoughts, then hopefully they'll rub off on the other players, the younger players, and we might have something to look forward to with a younger coach, a younger, forward-thinking, more aspirational or inspirational coach. Then things are on the up for us. So, as Paul Grant said, Geezer is good, use and abuse him. Now do.
Anybody see anything else in the chat? Nobody looking at the chat? Okay.
Yeah, Tony Upper.
Matty Cannon. Go on, sorry, go on.
Go on, Nick.
Matty Cannon said, look at Eze. Do we all realistically think he will still be with us in a few years? Couldn't hold on to AWB. Could we and Eze? He's likely to be bigger, possibly more money too. Look, Grant said it. Joe said it. I've said it. I'm sure Grant will agree that we are a middle club. We are a stepping stone club. That is the whole point for us to be looking at the academy and building the academy up. Because what we want to do is we want to be developing talent rather than buying it in and then moving it on.
Sorry, mate. My apologies. I'm looking at Ian Noble's use of words in the chat. I'm not going to read that out. Right, we're going to go on to something else. I'd like to change the subject that we made. Gentlemen, the subject is Frank Lampard and Jody Morris. Okay, now both temporarily out of work. You've all been harping on about a change of manager. You've all been talking about what we should and shouldn't do. And I propose this. And everybody out in Facebook land, I'd love your thoughts, please. Frank Lampard, Jody Morris comes in. Okay, and I'll tell you for why both of them in a minute. Okay, Roy Hodgson to move upstairs to be looked out and looked after for Frank Lampard, and so he knows the ins and outs of the running of the club. Obviously, Frank Lampard won't. Jody Morris has direct access to the wonderful Chelsea Academy, and I know firsthand that I'm talking about probably one of the best academies in the land. Would that make good sense? What do you think out of Facebook land? Jody Morris and Frank Lampard in as your number 1 and 2, and maybe even find a role somewhere for Ray Lewington to stay as well. Ian Lyons, to you first.
Well, I just had a long rant. Give it a Grant. Grant, let Grant have a go.
Go on, Grant.
Thank you. I put this out in on my page about Lamps coming in because I thought Lamps actually working alongside Roy for the remainder of this season could be good because Lamps probably shouldn't be number 1 just yet. Right now, he's just left the company where he didn't succeed to the heights that his boss wanted him to. So he's worked with Roy before, and I think they have a level of respect for each other. I've been public by saying I think Roy should go. When he goes is another question. I don't think it's a sacking. I think it's a case of him bringing someone in nurture alongside him. Bear in mind, we're all talking about Roy here, and no one is mentioning Ray. Sorry, yeah, he's sidekick. He doesn't just get left behind, does he? But going forward, I see Roy go upstairs, and I think Lampard could be good for us. I hadn't heard about Jody at all. I wouldn't say that Lampard wouldn't have access either. Jody's not exactly very proven for me. I think Lampard has got a decent record for bringing youth through, likes youth. That's probably not a good thing to say, but he likes the younger boy, and we got quite a few younger boys in our ranks. We could do well with someone like him, but with Roy very much looking after it, a little bit like when Ferguson left. We went upstairs and he still ran things. Yeah,
Jill,
I pace before I get legally in trouble.
I think it was Graham Daniels that's just said about Cahill as well. I mean, I don't know anything about Jody Morris at all, but from what I've seen about Lampard when he was at Derby and brought the youth through, gave youth a chance. That was very good. Really resonated with me. Gary Cahill for me, epitomises everything that we like about commitment and this is the other thing I've been sort of discussing quite a lot over the last few weeks is that a younger manager could get in the face of a player and put his point across and with the added 2 or 3 years ago I was wearing a shirt playing in the Champions League, playing for England, playing I was a big time Charlie that you're aspiring to be. And if you want to get like that, this is how you do it. I think that some of our younger players would look at Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard or look up to Gary Cahill and go, Christ, I remember watching them in the Champions League finals. And now I'm standing next to them. You can only be inspired by that.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure that Roy, 73, the 50-year difference is it's like your granddad shouting at you. You know what I mean? He's not even going to take you. He's going to keep your iPad up in the air and go, whatever, old man. It's just the way that I see it. We can all go, we can always 50-odd-year-olds go on about respect and which is what he's got. But what I don't want, and which has been mentioned loads of times, I don't want him to start getting disrespected because of because if this, that, and the other. Like I said, I'd like. I don't want him to shout. I don't want anyone to shout. I don't want Lampard to come in underneath him either. I just want change.
And so Grant, sentiments out the window in Gel's eyes. Time for Roy to go all together. What are you going to say, mate?
A couple of things out of chat. Matty Cannon was saying that Cahill he's a natural leader, which I totally agree with. But I think that's on the pitch. Playing the game well and leading on the pitch is very different to managing. There's something else, but it's moving up as we say it. Can't find it. Sorry, no, move on from me.
Okay, I've got Leon Sounds. Leon, welcome to the show, mate. Thank you for your input this evening. I have been watching all your comments. He said Roy doesn't like youth. Frank does.
Yeah,
simple.
That's the one, yeah.
And I think you've got a point there. Sarah Barrett, I've seen your message. Good evening to you and welcome to the show. Thank you to each and every one of you. Michael Montgomery, I can see you in there. And loads of you. Look at the numbers on screen, but that's not showing you the true numbers without the watch party figures as well. Let's ask you. So, Frank Lampard. Okay, before we move off from Frank Lampard, I've got a question for you. One word answer from both of you, all three of you. Frank or Rafa?
Right, I haven't answered the Frank Lampard thing yet, so let me answer that.
Sorry.
Frank for Rafa over a start, because I think Rafa will just want money. I agree with the boys about Frank and the way that he did. I said this on the balls the other day actually, about if we didn't give him money and ensured that he said, you know, that if he would come in and we said, you have got to start bringing youth through, I think it'd be a great thing. I think it would be very similar to when Coppell came in, you know, and as Jel said, about a recently retired pro with the experience, and then I haven't even thought of Cahill alongside him. I think Cahill is a great shout alongside him. If that were the dream team, as it were, and Roy were to then move up, because I agree, I think Roy's still got a part to play with us. But don't get me wrong, you know, no matter what I say about him as a manager, I still think he's got a very, very big part to play for his local club, his boiler club. But if he were to move upstairs and he'd be like a sounding board for Lampard and Cahill and everything else, where does that leave Friedman?
Who cares? In my mind, but that's my own personal opinion. I've got Bolton Wanderers in my head. Anybody else want to add on? Anybody else want to go any further on Rafa or Frank?
Frank, one word.
Because
Frank.
It's quite split in the chat as well. There's lots of people, saying different things in there. So Mux just finished it up by saying Roy out. Right, okay, so 2 games coming up. We've got a couple of long trips. We've got Newcastle and Burnley coming up. Is it time for squad rotation, or does Roy stick to that winning formula from yesterday? Apart from, obviously, you lot clearly want Matata to come in, Hakuna Matata. Any thoughts on the lineup for Tuesday night, boys?
Yeah. 4, 2, 1, 2, 1.
I didn't say formation. I said the lineup. You donut.
Gel's talking binary.
I think we've got 14 with my team.
He was trying to work out how to count.
He
got it wrong. Ian.
Yeah, I think McCarthy would be out. I think Gyro would be in. But other than that, I honestly think that it's hard to change the winning side, isn't it? It is hard to change the winning side. I just realised, Nick, that's you vaping, isn't it, that cappuccino? I thought it was a cappuccino maker.
That winning.
You're going on about everyone else making noises, and it's you rattling around.
I can't mute myself.
So I think it's Gyro would be the only change.
Really?
So, Ian, when you say don't change a winning side, totally agree. So is that the finishing 11?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
So somebody called Facebook user actually said the team that finished. I don't know if you are a Facebook user, but
I wonder if Facebook user is. I don't know who it is either, but go on, Joe.
Joan Wells has said, I wonder what Parish thinks about all the tweets moaning about Roy. I have thought about that.
Go on.
I don't care.
Anybody else scared there? I might just need to check.
No, I didn't mean that to be. They weren't only junk. I don't care what Parish thinks. He's a fan. We're a fan. You know what I mean? So I know. Yeah, he might have a few quid in the club, but we'll still be here after he's gone.
Thing is, Parish wanted to draw, but at least he actually made the call there, didn't he?
Exactly. He realised he made a mistake, cost him a few quid. That was it. That's the only thing I like. Is sometimes he's very decisive, but now he's being very divisive.
Well, I mean, we know amongst the four of us, we know that from someone close to the inside that he absolutely adores Roy. You know, and that it's going to be a hard decision for him to make.
Indeed. And if it's to sack him, that's why he hasn't sacked him. It's simply because he's still got to pay off the rest of his contract.
I'll do it. I'll do it for him. I'm not, you know,
pay off the rest of his contract.
No, well, he's £93,000 a week.
Is that
Put
what
him
it
in
is?
the back of a van with PVA. That'll sort it out.
Right. Okay. Last question before we wrap up. Okay, boys. Roy was quoted in his post-match comments after the Wolves game yesterday that 38 points is still his target for safety. Is this a realistic target, or to retain Premier League football for another season, or do you think it'll be less than that? Who wants to go first?
I think it'd be lower than that because we've got three very bad point gathering teams at the bottom. I think it'd be lower. 38.5.
So I actually haven't got those numbers to here. 38.5,
Yeah.
did you say? Oh, right, okay. Right. Anybody got the league table? I know I think we're 8 points above Brighton now, but
Brighton are one.
Are they still winning?
Yeah.
They're still winning.
Oh,
And
really?
it's now an injury time.
Can you see that?
Right, we're on 26 points.
Yeah, I've got it here. I've got it here now. Yeah. So Fulham on 14, West Brom on 12, Sheffield on 8, and I think your boys are probably all right. We're probably already safe now, if I'm honest with you. Looking at that, they're not going to bring those up. Okay.
No.
But what do you think the magic number will be this year? 33, 34?
Mid-30s, 36. There's 18 teams left full of in there.
I think we'll end up with 38, 39 points. Can I just very quickly make a point?
Yeah,
I'm just looking in it. Gary Clark said Roy hasn't been a mistake. In the chat, he said Roy hasn't been a mistake.
No, he hasn't.
But this is the thing. Roy's had our team for 3 years.
Yeah.
And if he's just literally in it for survival, and his aspirations are just for survival. But eventually, survival fails. Stoke, right? Now, like I said it before. I take being a Stoke. I'm not take being a Stoke for 7, 8, 9 years, because in the end it'll be so late. You know, we with the team that we just had, we were good enough. Well, were we a better side than Burnley?
Yeah.
I'd say yes. Well, they qualify for Europe. There's everything you need to know about a failure to capitalise on a team playing too defensively with an attacking team.
Bolton with the same.
So he hasn't been a mistake, Roy. He hasn't been a mistake if you're looking at it from the point of the chances are we're going to have Premier League football again, like we've had for the last 3 years.
So,
It's fantastic.
go on.
It's an entertainment sport. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And large parts of this have been very unentertaining.
I mean, that's an understatement. Okay, I'm just going to read some of the what the guys are saying about the points tallies in the chat. Robert Best, good evening, Rob. 38 points is realistic. Matty Cannon, hey, I hope you're well, buddy. Aim high, it'll be 46 for us. Paul Grant saying 35. Nigel Croucher, 36. And mate, thank you so much for your effort on everything you do in the background. Ian, I'm just coming to you. Leon Sounds, 36 points. I think that was probably about all of them. Yes, mate.
Yeah, I mean, we were just saying earlier, I was just saying that if we win the next 5 games, we're on 41 points. So I think that 36 points or whatever is ridiculous. We've got to be, maybe as a safety, I don't agree with that because I'm looking at Brighton who are winning. You know, West Brom are starting to pick up points. Fulham are starting to pick up points. We have got to keep we cannot have this safety zone in our heads until 2 or 3 games before the end of the season. We have got to pick up points against the teams at the bottom. If we do that, that's when the gap appears.
Have you got work tomorrow, Ian?
Yes.
I'm amazed. You must be smoking crack if you think we're going to get 15 points out of the next 5 games.
No, but listen to what I was saying earlier. I said there's a possibility. I said if we get 15 points.
No chance.
I know there's no chance, but the point being is that these are the games where we need to get the points. These are the games where we need to actually get the gap because we stop the teams below us getting the points. So that is where we need to throw everything.
You're making a gap bigger, is what you're in effect. Is what you're saying.
Season. The next 5 games are our season.
6 pointers.
All of them.
Right. Okay.
We'll get 9. I reckon we'll get 9. But
sadly, Brighton have won their game this evening against Spurs, guys. Right. One more question, and then I'm conscious that we're interfering with people's evenings. Okay. One more question. Tomorrow's transfer deadline day. Window shuts tomorrow evening. We're not even going to bother doing a show because if you listen to the manager's comments the other day, he's quite happy with the current squad, is what he said, quote unquote. Boys, do you think there'll be any late dealings in the transfer window? Grant, you're shaking your head. You go first.
No, definitely not. I can't see it happening.
Nothing at all. Nothing in or out.
We might push someone out, maybe out on loan, but then we've done quite a bit of that and need more the youngsters than
Sam Woods has gone out today, hasn't he? Yeah. I don't think we'll get anyone else. So.
No. Ian?
No, I don't. I think it's going to be one of the quietest transfer windows in living memory.
And I wonder how much of that is to do with COVID. Guys.
And Brexit.
Yeah.
Okay, what I want to do, boys, I want to finish up on some positivity from each of you before you say goodnight. Grant, you go first, mate. Some positive words.
Some positive words. We won yesterday. We got 3 points.
Yeah, all right. Jel?
I'll get paid tomorrow. Don't tell Lisa.
I already have.
Oh, positive, sorry. That'll be bad. 3 points, mate. Fantastic.
Mr. Lyons.
18 games till Roy's gone.
Absolutely. And there is plenty of opportunity for us to gather some points. Ladies and gentlemen out in Facebook land, you've been amazing as always. Thank you for your content. Thank you for your comments. We do read each and every one of them, I promise you. I can't even remember when we're doing the next show. Is it next Sunday, boys? Are we playing Saturday? Yeah, we have. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Boys out in Facebook land, out there, Jel, Ian, Grant, thank you so much, as always. My name has been Nick Philpott. It's been my pleasure to look after you this evening. We will see you again next week. Please stay safe. If you're old enough to have the jab, take that jab, put that face mask on, and stay safe. On behalf of us all, good night. Thanks ever so much. See you soon. Good night, everyone.